By Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
Welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson, Andrew Ellis here on a Monday. And fellas, it's good to see you again. Hope everybody had a good weekend. How are the vibes?
Vibes are good. I quickly went from neutral to a really, really good mood in like the last 5 minutes. I don't know what happened, but I'm happy to be here.
I think it's Andrew's face. I think that's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that definitely, the things picked up a notch whenever I hopped on. But yeah, I don't know. Marcus Woodson brought a good vibe to the table.
He did.
Because I was texting with Curtis this morning and we were having kind of a lowly conversation a little bit. We were like, back to the, what are we going to do? Like,
we kind of hit the grind of camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we were kind of like hitting that lull period, but I don't know. I'm rejuvenated again. And maybe I should thank Marcus Woodson, but he said some interesting things, actually. I mean, I know we've spent every day on the show, like kind of reacting to what the head coach or whatever position coach said that day, but he said some fun stuff today. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're going to talk all about that too. And dive into some of the quotes that he had that, are kind of just little filler things of, not surprising, not shocking. And then we're going to talk about something that was pretty shocking and pretty ridiculous that we'll have to dive into. But yeah, we'll get into that. We'll do some fun over-unders as well, kind of here on a Monday. And also, I guess our first guest, if you want to call it that, on here on Inside Arkansas Live is going to happen at 1 o'clock today. Carlton Saffa from Saracen Casino, good friend of mine, a good friend of ours. We love Bet Saracen. He's going to join us because he was on one, man. He was on one on social media.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything he needs to get off his chest, right?
yeah, he was on one, man. So we're gonna talk to him about what's going on and let's get some updates here on sports betting in Arkansas. But starting with, of course, Marcus Woodson. Before we start playing clips, guys, I think we've talked about it even on this show. I'm a huge Marcus Woodson fan, and I think you guys are as well. I thought when they hired him, you never know about a coach, especially coming into a situation where Arkansas was dead last in pass defense, like historically bad. But you saw, coming from Florida State and seeing the numbers that he had and actually going through a full season of what he did and making the secondary for Arkansas, at least the safeties, improve like 100 spots in rankings in one season. He's one of those guys that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, but is just so good. Like just hearing him today, you're just like, this dude's a coach. He's a bona fide coach. He's a really successful one. And he might be one of the best assistant coaches that Sam Pittman has on this staff right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He gives off big head coach vibes, just the way he carries himself, his demeanor. As of right now, everything he says, I believe. Just the way he says it, the way he delivers it, just confident. He's not overthinking anything, even if he's gassing something up. And I think he did some of that today. Just the way it comes out of his mouth, you're like, oh, maybe I believe this. Maybe I'm picking up what he's putting down. Just something about him. We talk about, the swag that Bobby Petrino brings. I don't know that I call it swag with Marcus Woodson, but he does have that aura about him. There's just, I don't know, man. I trust what he's saying. And obviously he's got the track record that, kind of speaks for itself too. So, doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think, but, yeah, he's definitely one of the better assistants on the staff, no doubt.
His resume speaks for itself. And I remember whenever, he first got hired at Arkansas, just kind of going through, and obviously Arkansas was coming off of such a bad season defensively. It was hard for anybody to really have any excitement about what Arkansas had on the defensive end going into last season. But if you looked at his track record and what he did at Florida State and just the constant progression that group had, they were one of the top 10 groups in the country by the time he left there. And it was a situation equally as bad as Arkansas, which I don't know how that happens at Florida State. So, you kind of had some wonders of, okay, yeah, you can do it at Florida State, but can you turn it around here at Arkansas? And Arkansas finished 32nd in the country in pass defense last year, which sounds like crazy. Like when I think back to last year, DBU is not how I would have described Arkansas's defense, but, the numbers were better than even I remembered. And I just think when you're talking about a group that was the worst in the country, it's like if that doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt going into this season, when you've added a little bit more talent on the defensive end, especially in the back end, I think Marcus Woodson has kind of earned the benefit of the doubt among most of these position coaches. And so, yeah, and then when you see him talk, you can kind of tell this is a guy that takes himself seriously. Like he takes what he does very seriously, even when he's answering questions about the receivers or the linebackers or whoever else on the defense. Like he's really trying to give legitimate answers, even if some of them sound pretty similar to the ones we heard from Darren Wilson, because Arkansas does have two secondary coaches for whatever reason.
Well, and we'll start with the the key to improving, because when Marcus Woodson was on the podium, it's like, that was really, I mean, yeah, he went down first off every individual player to start. Like, I mean, I think he named even the walk-ons that are in the secondary of like what they've been doing in fall camp. So really went through it, but the improvement and going from being that awful pass defense that was like 140th or however many teams are in college football to being 32nd, as you said, Andrew, what was the key to that improvement? And here's what Marcus Woodson had to say.
Good question. So, this time last year, the emphasis was togetherness, right? And just creating that camaraderie and the chemistry amongst the group. That's really important. And I do think that had a big role into the improvements that we made. However, that wasn't good enough, in terms of the performance that we put on the field last year. So we got to continue to work to get better. We got to, we understand each other better as well. It's actually a culture and it's a standard in the room that has been set, and they know myself and Coach Wilson better. We know them better. We understand what they can and can't do better. So we'll be a better staff in terms of putting them in position to be successful. But it's just now the overall culture, the start fast emphasis that we have this camp moving forward, and just that daily improvement. We have a saying in the defensive back room, how you do anything is how you do everything. And those guys have done a great job in terms of being where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I truly feel like that's how you win games. Like winning games is not just what you do on a practice field. It's also what you do when you leave the building, and everybody being where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, doing what they're supposed to be doing to the best of their ability. And that's the mindset. And so that creates consistency. And, I'm just excited about this group and the improvement that we made last year. We got to continue to make those same improvements toward this year as well.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. I thought it was a great answer for one, but one of the first things I noticed, though, is, when we think about coaches and somebody like Marcus Woodson, and you ask a question like that, at least in my mind, I've always been like, okay, so it must have been the scheme. It must have been the play calling. It must have been the zone versus the man, or like, start thinking about the schematics of it all. But he kind of went into just talking about the togetherness, but then being, okay, well, that wasn't it. And then it's a mentality. I think I forgot exactly how he phrased it, but it was something like, the way you do anything is by doing everything, whatever that is. But still, it was a very much nothing about breaking down the way of playing the position or anything. It's just more of a togetherness, but also a consistency factor. And at least that's what he says was the key to the improvement.
I mean, I think that's why the year 2 aspect of this is probably something we should talk about more and consider more. How often do we talk about a player, whether it's a freshman going into his sophomore year, or a transfer that sticks around for an extra year, where you say, well, he's got a season under his belt now, so now he's thinking less and just trusting his instincts and all those things. But we never really talk about that too much with a coach, right? And a coaching staff. So just like all these players who come in, they're new and they've got to learn their surroundings and their environment and understand expectations and all that. It's the same deal for a coach. They got to come in, get to know their guys, their strengths on the field, what works in terms of reaching them, and everybody's personalities are different, whatever. Build those relationships, build that trust. That's just a lot easier to do once you've been in the room with these guys for a year. And then all those newcomers who come in, they can talk to the guys who have been around and say, oh, no, like, pick up what Marcus Woodson's putting down, because this is what happened last year, whatever. So I'm interested to see about that, because on the surface, I look not necessarily at the secondary, but at other parts of this defense and go, it might not be as much there as there was last year. But there is something to be said for having that year under the belt with the staff and seeing what they can do moving forward.
Yeah, and when you think about this secondary in particular, you're thinking about a lot of older guys, a lot of guys that were there last year. I mean, Jaden Johnson, Hudson Clark, Jalen Braxton's a guy they really like. You're bringing back a lot of pieces, adding in some older veteran guys. I think talent-wise, it's not like Arkansas took a massive step forward in the secondary where they're second, they filled all these holes or anything. I think it's probably about the same relatively. And frankly, if you go back to the year where Arkansas was the worst pass defense in the country, talent-wise, it wasn't that big of a discrepancy there either. It was, a lot of those things that people don't like to talk about that are kind of boring, the togetherness, the scheme, and the are we all on the same page, and are we all rowing in the same direction? And, football, it is so funny how intricate all this stuff is, but then sometimes it really does just come down to, do you like the guys you're playing next to? Do you like your head coach? Do you believe in him? Do you believe in each other? Do you believe in what you're doing? And, Marcus Woodson, if there's one guy that really emphasizes that aspect of these things, it's totally him. I mean, I feel like he's someone's uncle. I don't know if he has a sister or brother or anything, but he's an uncle. Like, he has very uncle energy. I feel like he pulls people aside and just gives them motivational speeches all the time. He's just like trying to be a mentor to the young generation. Did y'all get that vibe from him?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I did. Yeah, I did. In fact, listening to him too, it's like, and again, this is not in an insulting way, but it's like, it kind of reminded me of like one of those like old wise school teachers that you had who had probably like, had some kids under them that were scholarships like to Yale and stuff, but then they've kind of just gotten old in their time. They have so much wisdom, but it's not like it means anything to them, that they've just produced so many great places. And that's why it's like wisdom. It's like a wisdom thing.
The young kid like finds out, hey, we're not that different after all. You've been through some of the same things I've been through. It's like he's that kind of figure. Yeah.
He's like Robin Williams' character on Good Will Hunting. Like that type of vibe that just been through a lot.
He's always giving you the "I've been in your shoes" speech, young buck.
Yes, it's not your fault. But that's the thing is, he talked about the togetherness and the improvement from last year. But the thing is last year, guys, they don't have some of the same guys. I know one of the weirdest or at least craziest things when Snacks Johnson transferred in spring. Like, I mean, if there was a guy where I was like, all right, well, I know that they got a few guys that are really good, but it's like, okay, Snacks Johnson, he started pretty much the whole season last year. And in spring, he was having a good time, joking around a little bit, really entertaining. And he's like, oh yeah, he's in the portal. It looked like because Nico Slaughter, the transfer from Tennessee, was kind of take his spot. So I say all that to say you got some guys from last year that are still coming back. You got some uncertainty. You've added some depth. But the overall question is this defensive secondary going to be better this year than what they were last year based on the personnel and who they got?
I mean, it could be, but the jury's out. I think they've got to figure out that opposite corner position. Me and Andrew talked about this the other day on Pot of That Nature. I mean, you feel, and again, I understand they don't have starters. They have standards, right? But they keep pounding that into our heads there. But on Saturdays, somebody's going to have to start. So you got to figure that out. Jalen Braxton, I think you feel really, really good about. On the opposite side, though, I don't know. Based on the comments that he put out there, it kind of, and maybe I'm wrong, but it sounded to me like Jaheim Singletary might be ahead of the pack a little bit, even though he's been in and out some. Keon Stewart, he said, hey, we're looking for more consistency out of him. Marquise Robinson seems like they like him quite a bit, big energy guy, but who's going to step up on that side of the field, I think is really important. You feel good about, Jaden Johnson and Hudson Clark in terms of knowing what you're going to get. I thought it was very interesting to hear that Jaden Johnson is an extension of the coaching staff now. After 2 years at Arkansas, I would have never thought that I'd hear that. And it sounds like they got some guys back there that they like. You mentioned Slaughter. They've talked about Larry Worth and him being so versatile at 6'4" and being able to cover slot receivers and man coverage. So a lot of pieces back there that you like he said, though, you just got to kind of put them in the right spots. It's musical chairs right now as they try to figure out who fits best together and what position that might be.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of this is how do you quantify better? Are they going to be better than 32nd overall in the country? I don't know, maybe not, just because I think last year they were behind in a lot of games. Teams weren't throwing against them as much. But if you just go on like actually piece by piece, I think you can make an easy argument that this group you feel a little bit better about, mostly because a lot of the guys that struggled last year, like a Keon Stewart or a Jaheim Singletary, they're back. And so you just assume that they're going to be somewhat better. They've been in the defense for a year, but I look at all these names, Curtis just listed off 6-7 names right there, like a Marquise Robinson and Selman Bridges. I feel like it would take a lot of guys, like all of those names you listed, not living up to their potential for this group not to be at least pretty good. I think this group has a very high floor. I don't know what their ceiling is. I'm not saying, hey, they're going to be clamping everyone. It's going to be top 10, just pass defense in the country, but I think they have a pretty high floor in that it would take a lot of injuries and a lot of underachievement for this group not to at least be pretty solid.
Yeah, because I would even throw in to your point. I don't want to call it a guarantee, but I would just be extremely surprised if any loss that Arkansas has this year, everyone puts it and points it onto, oh, well, it's the secondary. Secondary lost the game. I don't think they're going to be that level of bad. Now, again, they're not going to be, I mean, listen, because I was thinking about the teams they're going to be playing this year, guys. Like, think about just their SEC home games. They're playing Tennessee, which doesn't matter who really the quarterback is. You know that they're going to have an offense that can go. They're playing Ole Miss, which last time I checked, Lane Kiffin usually has a pretty good offense, especially with the returning quarterback in Jackson Dart. They play LSU, which I know they lost their Heisman Trophy winner from last year, but they probably know a little bit about offense, and especially with the guys that they've brought in, they're always going to be talented. And then you also have Texas. I mean, like, you throw those guys in, and then you have Jeff Lebby over at Mississippi State, which no one expects him to be good, but he's an offensive-minded coach. And, Missouri has offensive pieces. They have one of the best wide receivers. The point is like, they're going to be facing again a lot of really good offenses and a lot of really good QBs this year. So statistically, will they be better than last season? They may not, but I still believe that you got to sometimes take those matchups and those teams that you face into consideration. Do just enough. Don't be giving up five. I don't want to see a quarterback throw for 500 yards in a game. Like, just don't do that. Just do enough to where you keep it honest, you keep it interesting, you keep it going, because that, to me, is what I look at as far as improvement goes, considering the matchups, but just the big plays. That's the biggest thing. The big plays is what killed Arkansas a couple years ago, and they had some issues. I think it was Alabama last year. Those couple big plays made the difference in the game where they just took shots downfield and hit it. Don't give up the big plays. I'd rather nickel and diamond than give up big plays.
John, I think you're right. Like, I don't know that there will be a game this season that Arkansas loses where fans will be saying, that darn secondary. But, buddy, if they get the chance, they'll blame it on Hudson Clark specifically. So,
man, I tell you, even if he's not even on the play, he could be on the bench because he was taking a breather, or maybe like is in a stretcher going off the field, and everyone's gonna be like, hey, we lost the game because of him. He took too much time getting off the field because he was dead on the field. He didn't like it. So that's what's going to happen. But no, you're right.
He's the ultimate stray catcher. He will get that.
So. Yeah. Which I'd still laugh, and not to throw shade at former players, but it's like, do people not remember Simeon Blair? Because that guy, man, like I know he tried his hardest, and it was Catalan was supposed to be the guy, so it wasn't supposed to be him. But like, I feel like Hudson Clark's taken a lot more than Simeon Blair ever did, and I felt like Blair just really struggled.
Well, if Hudson Clark were a worse player, he wouldn't be as polarizing as he is, because nobody would really care. I mean, he was a former walk-on who was just a guy that was buddies with Chad Morris's son. Like, it wasn't like a thing anyone had expectations for, but he got a little too big he got a little too good and too productive to where now people just, every time he falls short of that bar, it's just going to be goodness.
Dude, yeah, the worst thing that ever happened to Hudson Clark was the 3 interceptions against Ole Miss in 2020. Since that point, it's just been, everyone has that expectation. But it goes back to I know we were talking about Hudson Clark, but seriously, it goes back to the point. Marcus Woodson, I think, is a phenomenal coach. He's a proven phenomenal coach. If he's playing Hudson Clark, maybe there's something to Hudson Clark. Maybe there's something to him to where he's actually a decent, solid player, because Marcus Woodson, I feel like he's done a pretty good job in recruiting. I think he's done a pretty good job in the portal. And I think he's done a good job of putting guys in position. So if he feels like Hudson Clark has value being on the field, I'm going to go with him. Not just the pissed off Razorback fans from, down in Rise and just being like, we can't play it down. Just no, shut up. I'm going to go with Marcus Woodson because I feel like he knows just a little bit more about the secondary than you. That's
where did Rising come from?
I don't know. It's just the first thing that I was trying to feel like, okay, what city can I insult? That's
not catching strays here, man.
I was trying to think of the city that I can kind of like come across as an insult, but won't have enough people to like yell at me on Twitter about it. So yeah, I had to be very selective in the moment. But
I'm texting Danny West.
I'm about to text Danny and apologize on our behalf.
Hey, listen. One of my good friends from U of A was from Ryzen too. In fact, I know way too many people from Ryzen for such a small town. Now that I'm thinking about it. So, but yeah, I'll mix it up next time and say Helena, West Helena. How about that?
There we go.
But okay, so with all that going on, guys, let's talk about the big thing here, because this was something to where all three of us are watching the press conference and we are texting in our group, kind of taking notes or whatever. And something that Marcus Woodson said that actually has nothing to do with the secondary was probably the most interesting and the most like spit take type of quote that you could have. It was about the linebackers. Take a listen.
Right now, one of our strongest positions is the linebacker room. You know, Coach T. Will and Coach Jake Trump, they done a really good job in terms of, you know, replacing some guys and bringing guys in that fit what we do. So with that, we have to find packages to get more of the linebackers on the field. And that puts four linebackers on the field. That's one of the strongest and deepest positions that we have on defense. So again, right now, we're just trying to figure out the best pieces to the puzzle to put the best 11 on the field to give us the best chance to win and be successful.
Okay.
Excuse me?
I'm not going to I love Marcus Woodson. I'm not going to believe that until I see it, but he sees it every day. So what I will say is big if true.
Yeah,
Because
big if true. I mean,
if that's
Curtis
true. That changes the outlook of this defense substantially.
I mean, Curtis and I literally went through every position group the other day on Saturday, which, by the way, if you didn't listen to that Pot of That Nature, go check that out because it's banger. But we literally went through every position group and said, are we concerned, confident, need to see more? And the linebacker was the easy one. We were like, we're concerned about this one. That was the highest one. We literally thought it was the worst position group on the team. And he didn't just say best. He said deepest, which I thought was interesting. But I've been thinking about this for like 20 minutes
They had
now.
to go get like 5 of them in the portal after the spring. But, yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I've been thinking about it since he said it, trying to make sense of it. I'm assuming that has to include Worth and Switzer, when they run all these weird packages, because I know both those guys have been bouncing around, and I mean, Switzer's more of a DB, but I'm assuming that he means with those guys. Still is a little hard to believe, but I guess that's what he's thinking.
I have a thought on this. Sam Pittman has a lot of good one-liners, but there was actually one that stuck with me when he was talking about the linebackers. It was during spring ball, so before they went and got some of these guys, but he was asked about it because the thing about him is we just haven't seen, like, none of these guys have proven it, whether it's just being on the field at all or at the SEC level, whatever. But what he said was, just because you haven't played doesn't mean you can't. So just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean it's not possible. So behind closed doors, maybe they are excited and encouraged about those guys. You never know until the bullets start flying on game days. But again, that would be a huge development. And even if it's, if it's a little bit of embellishment there with, no, we're so deep, we got to get 4 of these guys on the field at a time. If you just have 4 period that you can rotate in and out and feel comfortable there, I feel a lot better about this defense than I did 30 minutes ago before he said that.
Yeah. And also it's funny because I just talked about how, hey, if Marcus Woodson says this and likes Hudson Carlton, I'm going to go with him. And then he says something about the linebackers that I'm like, no. Like, so it's like I kind of am talking both sides of my mouth, but like that was something to where, like, listening and hearing that again, it's like if he would have gone out and talked about some other of the positions or whatever, that's fine. But the linebacker, really, since the season ended last year to now, you lost all your linebackers, and all of them but one are still playing, just not for you. Like, all of them transferred to other schools. Your best one, Chris Pupal, transferred to a school that's a rival inside the SEC. And what you replaced all those guys with was, yes, Xavier Sori was a big time get, and a guy who came out of high school from Georgia and all of that. But then you had some guys who are like, who are these people? I've never even heard of these guys, or have they played at a high level? Don't really know. And so really, if there was one thing I felt confident in my negative side about Arkansas is the linebackers this entire time. I'm like, nope, the linebackers, it's not it. They don't have enough. They're not talented, whatever. So to hear him say that and to like talk about how deep it is, I just kept looking at the roster. I'm like, am I missing somebody? Like, did somebody get added that I didn't remember or anything? I hope he's right. Razorback fans are hoping he's right. But that was just of all the strong statements that have been said in fall camp, that might be the biggest prediction or the boldest statement that's ever been made in fall camp by a coach I've ever heard.
Yeah, man. And I don't know if I heard this wrong, but he was asked specifically about Switzer. And then when he started his answer, he said Larry, as if he was answering for Worth. I don't know if he was talking about Worth. I think he was talking about Switzer, but just how big of an impact addition that he's going to be, and that they really like him at the second level as opposed to on the back end. And so maybe that's a dude who, has really emerged, and they're like, okay, like we found something here, a true diamond in the rough kind of guy. And then if you feel good about Spence and Sorey, coming out of the spring, and then you add a piece like that, then there you go.
This is the most fall camp thing of all time, because I'm sitting over here thinking, I'm like, well, Switzer, all of a sudden, maybe he really is like linebacker, his spot. He's an NFL linebacker. Turns out they're going to have like a Martrell Spate type of linebacker right there. Then you got Sorey, who's a Georgia transfer. Georgia has good linebackers all the time. Of course. Yeah, he'll be great. Brad Spence, sophomore year, time to roll. But I don't know, man. But it turns out Steven Dix must just be crushing behind closed doors at practice.
Yeah,
haven't heard his name at all,
man.
But apparently he's a part of the deepest position group in the country.
Exactly. And I mean, yeah, and in fairness, there's no chance in hell that he's going to walk up there and be like, listen, linebacker, like if I can find a formation back there where we don't have one on the field, that'd be awesome. And like, he's not going to say that. But if you think about it, like, these guys are usually pretty honest about certain things where you can read between the line, like Pittman the other day, where he was like, listen, we have to find a fourth D tackle. We have to find a fourth defensive end. Like, that's something we are trying to figure out. And so it could have been a situation where he was saying, we feel good about our two guys there. We're still trying to sort out the depth or whatever. But for him to just get on the soapbox and say it's the, one of their strongest positions and their deepest, that's a bold statement.
Dude, I was halfway expecting like them to come out and be like, hey, we're going to have to run the 3-2-6 defense this year. Yeah, because like we just, it ain't it. Or at minimum the 4-2-5, just because of the lack of linebackers that they have. And so, again, I know, I guess, what is it? You said, Curtis, is it Wednesday? Yeah, Travis Williams is Wednesday, the linebacker coach and defensive coordinator. I'm sure he'll be asked about that statement from Marcus Woodson. But, like, did I also hear that he was talking about possibly having, like, four linebackers on the field at once?
He did.
So, they've been doing this weird thing with, like, Brad Spence up kind of on the line of scrimmage almost. Like, he's playing linebacker but close to the line of scrimmage. So I'm guessing if you have Spence kind of there, you have Switzer, Sorey, Worth, I guess. Like, is that the third one that would be there? And so then, I mean, I don't know. Do you have is it a 3-4 we're going with here? Is that what I'm hearing? I don't know. It would kind of make sense based on the fact that they don't have that many defensive linemen that they like. And since allegedly they have all these linebackers now, I guess a 3-4 kind of makes sense, but it's definitely just not a storyline I saw coming.
It's one of the coins, right? Because you hear nickel, you hear dime, but then he was talking about penny today. That was a new one to me. So I'm gonna have to go brush up on my formations a little bit to understand exactly what that layout looks like. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
interesting to say the least.
Is there a $50 defense? Is that the only one missing? Like, I think like quarters and like all that. Yeah, I hadn't seen that one before. But also too, like, I know that if Arkansas against UAPB or whoever, if they come out there with four linebackers, I'm going to have to look at the roster and look at numbers and be like, okay, who is that? Like, I think most Razorback fans are going to have to do that because, like the whole defensive line, if you've been following Razorback football, those names. You know Landon Jackson, Eric Gregory, Cameron Ball, Nico Davier, like, those names. And then even in the secondary, most of them. The only one that you may not be new is Danico Slaughter, but maybe if you've been following recruiting and say, oh, a Tennessee guy, that's it. But a linebacker, it's like, other than Xavier and Sorey, people probably remember Brad Spence because he had the pick 6 last year in the first game.
The Little Rock fans think Brad Spence is the best player of all time because that's all they've seen is his pick 6.
Yeah, if you judged it just on the Little Rock games alone, he's the MVP. So his best games are in Little Rock, I hear. So let's see what he does in against UAPB. But we mentioned Larry Worth, Steven Dix Jr., like Alex Sanford, Carson Dean, Bradley Shaw. Any of those guys will just kind of be like, who? Like, I feel like the guy from Major League. Who are these effing guys? It's like, who are these players that came out? But hey, I think Razorback fans will love to be pleasantly surprised. But if Marcus Woodson is 100% telling the truth, if he is truly if it's truly that good and that deep and that strong, how does that change this entire outlook of the defense? Because to me, it changes everything. It changes everything if he is telling the truth and the linebackers are actually as strong and as deep as he says.
Yeah, big game changer. It raises the floor and the ceiling for this group quite a bit. So time will tell. And I see this comment here about Woodson being a great coach and we need to trust his judgment over the three of us guys here. What the hell do you want us to do? Are we not supposed to talk about it here? We've been giving Woodson his flowers from the very start of the show here.
Yeah.
And if you want a cookie cutter story just with his quotes, and you can probably go find that anywhere, but this has been widely viewed as one of the biggest red flag positions on this roster, if not the biggest red flag. And we just got some information to the contrary. So we're going to talk about it. Of course, it's a guessing game until we get out there on Saturdays. And that's why we're saying big if true. Yeah. Time will tell.
I think the aspect of the Worth and Switzer aspect of this is the real key here, because you always hear coaches talk about, we got to get in basketball, you got to get your best 5 on the floor. In defense with football, it's like, oh, you got to get your best 11. It's a little bit hard to do sometimes because, hey, what if you actually do have 8 linebackers, but you don't have a great secondary? It's tough to make a linebacker a safety or whatever. But with guys like Switzer and Worth, it seems like they found a little bit of a loophole to where you have some of these guys who were essentially DBs in build and how they play, that you're going to have close to the line of scrimmage that can fill your hole at linebacker, and you have a deep secondary. So it allows you to keep some of these guys like a Slaughter. He continues to be your nickel. You get to keep all your safeties, your Hudson Clark, your Jaden Johnson, your whoever out there. It's honestly it's not a bad trade-off here. But I mean, I still just am a little hesitant to say that means that I think the linebacker position is actually going to be the strength of the defense. But I think it speaks highly to how they feel about Switzer for sure.
Well, we'll continue to talk about all things going on with Arkansas as part of your Arkansas Update, brought to you by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Go see my boy Clayton over there. He'll get you all set up with all the insurance needs that you could possibly have and possibly want. And that being said, let's get into some of these chats, since we've been talking about linebacker and everything, because then we'll do some other discussions of some other over-unders too, to have some fun with it as well. But let's see. We got Jeff saying, kind of going to the point that we were making, he's like, I would take his word on their ability, but depth is the one question I would have. Yeah. Maybe they are having someone change over positions to the linebacker group itself. Which,
I think that's the correct take there.
Yeah. So look at that. We actually do have correct takes in the chat sometimes. Let's see. Jeff also goes on and says some transfer because it's a me mentality. So a we mentality can't blame sometimes because they're chasing that dream. Referring to, I guess, the Snacks Johnson situation.
Or maybe his NIL check
didn't clear. Cash delivered to your front door and then you just go.
Yeah.
Maybe that check was clearing somewhere else.
Where did he end up transferring again?
Baylor. He's back at Baylor.
What is with everyone going back?
Like, when he posted his commitment, he was like, sorry, y'all, I was tripping for a year.
Well, at least he had some fun with it.
Actually, a funny tweet.
That is
like really one of the funnier tweeters to come through this campus.
Yeah, well, I was having I think it was the video from spring ball that we had where he was yelling at the ref because he thought that there was or he wasn't even on the play. He was just talking to the ref and asked if it was PI or not, and the ref said no. So he was a good trash talker, good at having fun with it. James wants to know: would you say that DBs or wide receivers are winning camp? If it's wide receivers that tell me our offensive scheme will be effective, because he also says, I keep seeing videos of our wide receivers beating our DBs.
Well, they're going
to go ahead, Curtis. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, they're going to put out the highlights, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to see the big touchdown catches or whatever. They've been pretty good about mixing in some of those interceptions when they can. But you won't see Taylon Green throwing many of them. Like you might see an interception, but you're not going to see the quarterback. That's just kind of part of the deal there. But I think there's been some back and forth there. It also depends on who's out there, man. Because both of these groups have been banged up. So like if Armstrong and Broden are out there, that's kind of a different world than when they're not. And it's been the same thing in the secondary. Singletary's been out for a while, and Marquise Robinson has been in and out. And so, it's a mix and match thing this time of year.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not breaking any news here, but you got to take into account that there's only 20 minutes worth of filmable footage at practice of a 2.5 hour practice. So like, like a very small percentage of it. And then obviously the scrimmages are closed off to us and we're just kind of having to go off what they tweet out. And so it's really hard for anybody to truly answer that question unless you're there at the practices behind closed doors and stuff like that. And also, like Curtis mentioned, sometimes you have, like in the scrimmage, you have your one offense going against your two defense, or your two offense going against one defense, or whatever the case may be. And so trying to like draw the conclusions based on the seeds you're seeing planted. I get it, because that's kind of what we're all trying to do here. But yeah, it's tough to definitively be like, oh yeah, the receivers are just crushing. But it did seem like Isaiah Satania was was busting the two defenses' ass the other day.
One-on-ones too is just it's just a tough spot to be in for a defensive back.
Yeah.
Full team stuff, 7-on-7, a little bit different, but the one-on-ones is tough, man.
Well, especially when you talk about the highlights and putting it out there and everything. I mean, I know a little bit about social media, and I don't know. I just feel like a big like touchdown catch, somebody mossing a defensive back, probably going to hit a lot more than a defensive back going up and swatting the ball. Like that just doesn't get anyone excited. Like just going up and like, oh, not gonna, like it's like, oh man, the no fly zone, and everyone's like, okay, cool. Like it's just not as cool. So that's why, yeah. Don't look at the highlights that the Razorback Twitter account puts out and be like, this is the team. This is the team and how it is. Like you just can't do it that way. Also. Going back, and I'll also have the Kool-Aid guys. We're what, 17 days away? It's already happening. Hunter's over here. This doesn't sound too far-fetched, but we're going to be Texas this year, and we hate them more than we like ourselves. So we already got people that are getting.
Sam admitted that much.
Yeah,
in media days.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah, that's you could say that about a lot of different teams too. Yeah, because Cody's over here. He's already playing the game. He's like, got 3 pick sixes last night against LSU on the NCAA 25. Defensive backs looking spicy.
I do like that. I do like
that. In honor of Patrick
Yeah.
Huddy, 3 pick sixes, man.
Yeah, dude, man. If he does that, I think he's only gotten 2 interceptions since that point. Like he had 3 in that one game in 2020. So we'll see if he has more there. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just I'm reading some of these comments and like the whole thing about James Thomas and Pooh Paul rotating in and out off the bench.
We got to talk about it. I'm glad you brought it up, Curtis, because we got to talk about it.
I'm sorry, but guess who Arkansas's 2 leading tacklers were last season? It was Jaheim Thomas with 90 and Pooh Paul with 74. They're both gone now. Who was next up in that linebacker room? Antonio Greer with 36. He is gone now. Jordan Crook with 28. He is gone now. All those guys are gone.
Right.
And so they literally lost the entire linebacker room with the exception of Spence, who I thought was really promising as a true freshman.
Nice freshman.
Again, like do they have depth in terms of they've got a lot of dudes, like a lot of bodies? Absolutely. But every one of them in some way or the other is unproven. And like I said with the Pittman quote, just because you haven't played doesn't mean you can't. But until you do, we can't just assume because somebody said so. Like you just got to see it. That's all.
Yeah. And that's the thing is it's not like we're even saying that, hey, these guys that left were all studs and they're whatever. It's just the guys that were playing. And so you have to replace them. And so there's some guys that are just, they're unproven, like you said. And that doesn't disqualify them from being good, but we are definitely not making up this narrative that Arkansas, that like linebacker depth is kind of one of the biggest stories of the offseason. It's kind of been something we've all been talking about for like 9 months. I don't know, like maybe I'm going crazy here. But yeah, D-line and linebacker, that's kind of been the big 2 positions where it's like, got to find depth. Seems like Arkansas might have found it with guys like Switzer and Worth, which is great. And so that's kind of why we're just kind of going through this process here. Like we had questions, perhaps they're being answered. We'll find out in a few weeks. That's how this thing works. Like, I don't know.
Well, also too, it's like we go off of what we know and it's what we're having to know now. And there's nobody worth their salt that right now they can say, I have seen enough from the linebackers on the Razorback football team right now that they're going to be better than what they were last. There's zero way. There's zero credibility in that. And let's be honest too, guys, if they had returned all the linebackers that are still playing college football right now, if they had returned all those guys, if they still had Chris Pooh Paul, if they still had Jaheim Thomas, it would be a completely different discussion we'd be having. Like, hey, linebackers, I mean, and especially they added like Xavion Sori into that. I'm like, man, the linebackers, they're pretty deep. They got a lot of guys because we've at least seen it. But we just haven't seen it. And so until we do, it's all we got. We just got to go off of what we know right now. That's the thing. We got to give a shout out Daniel Shees in the chat. He's the inverse of the wide receiver room. We'll see if he's having all or no returners is better.
This is a good point. Because, I mean, the receivers are like you said, the exact opposite, where you've got a lot of returners, most of which haven't really proven themselves on a high level. And so, yeah, we get to find out in real time. That would be quite the surprise, though, wouldn't it be? If, like, the linebackers turned out to be the stars and the receivers, it was like, Satania and Broden suck.
Right.
Yeah. And, I mean, and that's also something, too, going back to, like, I'm not going out all the fans, but it is always my favorite thing where we're talking about things in fall camp because of what the coaches tell us and the things that we see in the small clips of practice. And then they're like, well, they said it, so it must be true. That's what they're, we get criticized for that if we have any sort of like pushback on it. And then when the season gets going, and if something's not as good, they're like, hey, you said in the fall that this position was going to be good and it's not. You're a liar.
Exactly. Yeah. Remember,
the coach told us. Well, we were like, what are we supposed? That's all we can go on. The coach said that. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at them. That's
everybody remember today's conversation. And then if Arkansas starts struggling at some point this season, when it's the whole media said that they overhyped them like they always do. Well, you didn't get that here. Okay. No. You didn't get it here.
No, not at all. Also, we'll get into some over-unders too, leading into the Carlton's off from the Saracen. Is there another funny chat? Is that what you guys are laughing about in there?
No, I just love it. I love doing it.
It's funny. Like I could tell Curtis we were going through the same thing where I was like reading it and kind of annoyed, and I was like, I kind of want to talk about this, and then it just. I'm glad we hashed it out.
Okay.
My favorite thing in the world, and I mean that, I'm not being sarcastic. Like the interaction with the chat's so much fun. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I genuinely do love it.
Dude, it is fun, and that's why we appreciate everybody who watches and listens in, even if you are an idiot, we still appreciate you. We love the highly educated people and the lowly educated people here on Inside Arkansas Live. All right, so real quick, guys, just because we got about 15 or so minutes. Carlton Saffa is going to join us. We'll talk some sports betting here in Arkansas. A couple of things real quick. I did a poll question. It wasn't anything that we could really dive into. I just want to get your thoughts on it, guys. This is what my mind does because I swear I have like Asperger's or something. So basically you have the question of what gets you more hype? A pick six, a scoop and score, or a kick return / punt return for a touchdown? Like in football, like between all those three, which one is like the most hype of all three?
Well, I'm pretty partial to sorry, frog in my throat.
Stay with us.
Yeah. I'm pretty partial to a punt return. Like, I don't know, man. Like that's just kind of electric to me. But if the pick six or the scoop and score comes from a big fella, fat boy touchdown, there's nothing better. Nothing better.
Yeah, it honestly depends on where you're at in the field. Because like I think of some of those like 90, 100 yard, like Jerry Franklin's scoop and score that was like 100 yards against Vanderbilt. When it's like a long one like that, that's always cool. But I always love the returns too. I had a Devin Hester jersey when I was a kid,
dude,
and I just was kind of enamored with the fact of like how someone could affect the game without playing a position, because he really didn't have a position and played professional football for like 12 years because he was so good at returns and air returns. And so, yeah, watching Joe Adams growing up, those are the fun things. Dennis Johnson, when he used to house those kicks, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Arkansas went through a dry spell with kick return and punt return where like it was like
Nathan Perotti.
Yeah, it was a little, Nathan Perotti finally ended our national nightmare. But they went through a little spell there.
Yeah. In fact, maybe that's the key. If Arkansas gets a punt return for a touchdown, they have a great season. I mean, 2010, 2011, 2021. So just saying, even though I guess last year they did, or 2 years ago, they had a punt return from, Stevens, right?
Last year they had one. Satania ran one back last year.
Got one. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
BYU game, right?
In the BYU game. They had a punt return and still lost at home to BYU. That was nuts.
Okay, well there goes my theory then. I guess that makes sense. Mine real quick. Like I love the pick six, but it has to be a certain pick six. There's nothing better than if you're watching on TV, especially where a quarterback throws it and it's like a full speed safety that like just jacks it like in stride and then just takes off running, like because it so happens so suddenly and just shows you how great of a break on the ball. So I'd say a pick six gets me hyped. Again, scoop and score, Julian Horton. Those can be fine too. Devin was already pissed. My buddy Devin was pissed at me. I asked that question. He's like, well, what if the scoop and scores in a BCS bowl game? Like, shut up, Devin. I hate you. So, all right. And we'll have a few over-unders because we kind of do this. And, if we can't get to all of them, then we can save some of them for the show tomorrow and all that. But since we've been talking about the defense and secondary, guys, over under 12 and a half interceptions for the Razorback defense this season. To give you perspective, they had 12 last season. So over under 12 and a half for the Razorbacks.
Over.
Okay.
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
This is a crapshoot completely.
Oh, it is, yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like Arkansas is going to play a lot of secondary. Like they're going to have like 7 DBs on the field at a time. Team's going to be running the ball against them.
Okay. Yeah. I'm probably going to go with
7. They ain't going to have to. I think throwing the ball is not the way to beat this Arkansas defense. I don't think.
No. Well, and that's why it's been pushing me. I want to say I'm going to go under 2 just because of the amount of great quarterbacks and offenses they're going to play this year, man. It's just going to be, I don't know.
By the way, Nudie, shout out Nudie for just being one of the best ball hawks in school history. Like, simply put,
He was that.
he was so good at just coming up with that random interception where he's like, oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
missed that a little bit.
I like the secondary to get a decent amount, maybe not that many, but the reason I'm going over, and I will give a shout out to the linebacker room here, Brad Spence. You want to talk about ball hawks? He might wind up leading the country in linebackers with interceptions. Like, he had the pick 6 last year, but in spring practice, the dude got a pick a day.
Yep.
It was
Crazy. I forgot about that.
So he might get 3 himself. And then if the secondary gets 10, boom, you're over.
Yeah.
Brad Spence, man.
Yeah. And again, it's just that one nightmare game because, like, if they play UAPB and they get like 4 picks, then obviously it's like we're in trouble. So, yeah, one game could change it all.
Or that Matt Corral game, you know?
That's or the Matt Corral game. All right. How about this? Over under 1.5 defensive touchdowns scored for the Hogs this year.
I got to go under on this simply because defensive touchdowns are kind of a fluke. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah, they are.
Well, they have 5 last year, or 5 like total with special teams defensive.
Yeah, something like
I just
that.
think the law of averages has got to catch up to them here. I mean, it just takes a specific set of circumstances, and it happened a weird amount last year.
I'll give him 2.
Especially for a 4-8 team. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I'll give him 2. Spence is going to get 1. So all I need is 1 from anybody else.
Little Rock right out the gates. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I know we'll probably have bowl predictions. This is my random bowl take. Arkansas is going to score a touchdown this year based on a high snap over the head of the quarterback, and it goes into the end zone and they get on it. Like, that's about as specific of a weird thing I can do. But yeah, I'm also going to go with the over on that.
Give it the odds.
I'm gonna call my shot here.
Yeah. Okay.
Cam Ball. Defensive touchdown.
Dude. Okay.
Cam Ball defensive touchdown would feed families.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cam Ball. Okay.
You heard it here first.
All right. How about this? Hudson Clark gets the game-sealing interception against Texas.
Easy. We already got the chat riled up.
I know. Like, anytime you say Hudson Clark,
these people would be so mad. You losers would be so sad if Hudson Clark had a game-sealing pick against Texas.
Yeah, it's like they were going to rush the field.
That we did would just hit like crack, dude. We'd be out here dancing for an hour and a half.
Dude,
John with his no-fly zone button.
No, man, I'd make it in, like, I'm gonna have it made into a shirt and just like wear it or have a tattoo of that Hudson Clark picture on my body somewhere. Like, if he did that, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll get a tattoo of that picture of Hudson Clark on my body somewhere if he gets the game-sealing interception against Texas this year.
Okay,
like, clip that. That's a guarantee.
All right, yeah. I feel like if it happens now, it's like, dude, you got to do something even crazier than that.
Yeah. Well, for me, getting a tattoo, that's pretty crazy.
That is, yeah. I mean,
like, for me,
especially of a younger gentleman than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
especially of the defensive back for Arkansas that was here for like 8 years.
White DB at Arkansas.
If it's a pick 6, if it's a pick 6 to win the game, will you make it a tramp stamp?
Yes.
Okay.
Deal.
Done.
Yep. And you guys have to be there with me when I get
that picture of like you, because we'd have to get Hudson Clark and like make y'all take a picture.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, yep. That would be something. I'm sure he'd be totally down for it, and it wouldn't be weird for him at all. Yeah.
When Quinn Ewers lobs up that duck with like 8 seconds left, and we're like,
yep. And it just, and everyone was going to rush the field, but then when they found out Hudson Clark did, they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Jerks. All right. How about this? Over under 37.5% of third down conversions for the opponent this year. That's what their percentage was last year. So it's going to be higher or lower? Over under?
Lower.
Okay.
Stone Cold music's going to be good to them this year.
It's third down. Yeah, can we? I'm like, listen, I love the Stone Cold. Do you guys want that to keep going?
No.
Okay,
I don't think you can do it every third down, especially because like there's games where teams it'll be like 12 of 17 or something like that. It's like it's a lot of Stone Cold.
They do need to mix it up. It gets tough on those sustained drives where you hear it like once every 90 seconds for 80 yards. You know,
like, okay. One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over. I've been too optimistic today with the other ones.
I've been too pessimistic, so I'm gonna go under.
So I'm gonna say they go over as well. Because I actually felt like their third down conversions still wasn't great, but I feel like most of those were later in the season. I'd have to look at it, but because I felt like
hope that their
better.
Conversion rate on 3rd and 14 is good.
Dude, like I feel like when I'm playing the video game of college football, that happens to me all the time. Like I'm the Razorbacks. Like I feel like the Razorback defense on this video game. It's 3rd and 14. I got a perfect defense set up, and the quarterback runs for like 28 yards. And
dude, just don't play defense. Like realistically, I don't know who needs to hear this today. You don't have to play defense on the game.
No,
you just super sim. It's why it exists.
Or just do Kevin Kelly ball. Just like onside kick it every time. Go for it on every 4th down. Just do that. Let's see the other ones that I guess that's. Oh yeah, how about this one? Over under the lowest point amount for their opponent. I should have worded this better, but lowest points scored in a game by a Razorback opponent this year, 13.5.
Under.
I'm gonna go under on that. There. I mean, week 1 they're gonna have a chance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason
UAPB ain't scoring 14 on them boys.
Yeah, and I could totally see it. The only reason I brought it up too is because I guess Western Illinois or whatever last year they blew out, but then they scored late.
Yeah.
But then the Kent State team that was a struggle scored 6.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that game completely.
Yeah.
It was the closest 28-6 game of all time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow. Yeah, that was an awful game.
Dude, it's only the second home Razorback Fayetteville game I've missed since 1997 was that game. The second one.
That's okay.
And yeah, I was like, at first I was really pissed because I'm like, man, I had a good streak because the only other one was for my sister's wedding. And then this one's for a buddy's wedding. And then like when I went down there and I was kind of following along, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of glad that I'm not there for that. Because I remember Arkansas could not run the ball against one of the worst teams in Kent State. So that was
they got stuffed on 4th down like multiple times or something like that. It was rough.
We should have known. We should have known then.
And I did look, and like UAPB is going to be really bad, obviously. But when we were looking at that 1 through 134 ranking of all the teams last week, UAB and Louisiana Tech were both like below 120. So they're expected to be a couple of the worst teams in Division I football. So,
dude, Louisiana Tech fired Skip Holtz a few years ago, and nobody knows why. Like, I used to go to school there. Everybody around there, he was like one of the best coaches in school history. And I mean, Skip Holtz, low key, almost a Razorback coach there in a different alternate reality. But
I have memories of
great bowl games.
Yeah, I have memories of Louisiana Tech putting scares into Arkansas at Razorback Stadium. So
2016,
I'm glad
man,
that they stuck, though, because I thought it was messed up that they fired him, and they have been worse and worse and worse since.
Yeah, sounds like they're going to be pretty.
You remember when UAB shut down their football program? By the way,
yeah,
for like 2 years.
Was that during or after Garrick McGee was the head coach?
After, I believe.
Yeah, I do too.
Who's he
was
there
there
now?
for like 18 months.
It's the dude from ESPN,
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was UAB. I didn't want to misspeak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember I was at randomly. I was in Hot Springs doing a remote show on a Saturday last year with the Buzz, and we were at one of the hotels that was there because that's kind of where we were set up at. I'm walking out and I see Trent Dilfer, and I'm like, that's weird. He was there for like some football convention thing. I was like in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I was hanging out, like really random.
I like Trent Dilfer, but Arkansas is going to absolutely wallop UAB.
They better. If not,
he'll be back on TV in December.
Arkansas is going to be responsible for putting them back on ESPN. All right, and finally, this one's just kind of a random one I was thinking about with after the season and everything. How about this? Over under Razorback players taken in next year's NFL draft, 3.5.
The issue here is a lot of Arkansas's draftable guys aren't eligible.
Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. So, like, who would we say that's draft eligible that we feel the best about getting drafted? Would it be
Brandon Jackson?
It's Jackson,
Brandon
right?
Jackson, obviously. Andrew Armstrong.
Armstrong, I feel like is going to have a decent chance.
Yeah, I think so too.
First round type thing.
I know the position's kind of, but not as much. But like Jaquindon Jackson.
I was gonna say he would be one where like it wouldn't surprise me at all. I feel like that's a professional football player.
Guy.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? According to Austin Ledbetter, Taylon Green is going to get drafted.
Okay.
That's what he told me at Tin Roof. He said he thinks Taylon Green's getting drafted this year.
All right.
If he does, then Arkansas has a good season, man.
Yeah.
Like a really solid season.
I will just say this. Taylon Green would not, if he were drafted in the first round, he would not be the worst first round draft quarterback. Like there's been a lot worse quarterbacks drafted in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Jake Locker.
AJ McCarthy just got drafted in the first round like last year.
Yeah, like that dude. Yeah, I think it was the year that Mallet was in the draft. I guess it's 2011 draft where I felt like in the first round there was like 8 quarterbacks taken, and maybe one of them, which was Cam Newton, I think actually ended up being decent.
Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, all that, and then you had Kaepernick and Mallet in the third round.
Yeah, and because I think that was Jake. I think it was Jake Locker was that same year too.
Yeah,
but just always really tough there. But okay, yeah. So we'll be down with that.
Broden could get drafted.
What's that?
Broden could get drafted. I was just thinking about other guys.
If he has that breakout year, yeah.
And just like like Matt Landers got drafted. I mean, he had a really good year at Arkansas, but it's like projectable. I feel like Broden's a guy that'll go to the combine and people will be like, yo.
Yeah, he's very tall and very fast.
He only had 400 yards, but 6th round, it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess some people in the chat also wanted to get in on our over-under because like Clint says, Taylon Green over under 2,400 passing yards over.
I'll go over that.
Yeah. I mean, KJ almost went over that last year, and they were terrible.
It's just football at this point.
It would be a career high for Taylon Green, but I feel good about that happening.
Yeah, I do too.
Petrino,
yeah. And we also got Mr. Bowline says over under inside Arkansas breaks 6K subs before Arkansas Texas. Oh,
we'll break that before
this season opener.
Yeah, before UAPB.
Yeah, because if you haven't subscribed yet, folks, better do it. So you can make us look good on this particular question that we've been having. So, but yeah, no, like the over unders, man. It's always fun to deal with, and actually, I need to start betting on those more this football season. Yeah. I started trying to do the spreads too much. I was like, I need to start just going with over unders, especially like with
always bet unders though when it's season totals because you're always an injury away from it hitting.
Yep.
And you're the guy away from it hitting. But
that's true.
It's it's nice to take a little solace when you see that cart come out. You're like, you know what?
Yep.
It's his ankle going that way. You're like, he's probably not throwing for 3,600 yards, is he?
No, not at all. And also, Heartbroken Hawk says Taylon Green will be drafted off measurables alone. 6'6", an NFL arm that can run. Even if this year goes bad, there will be a coach that says, I can fix him.
Exactly. Like, and that's where it's like, there's been far worse quarterbacks drafted than Taylon Green. Yeah. I would argue.
Yeah, especially with the Petrino angle too. Like that would be that'd be something that helps. But we've talked over unders. We're big betting guys here, sports betting guys here on Inside Arkansas and everything. And a man that knows a lot about sports betting here in the state of Arkansas and just betting in general. Let's go ahead and welcome in our very special and our very first guest here on Inside Arkansas Live. It is Carlton Saffa. He is a part of the Saracen Casino Resorts as well as the Bet Saracen app. Carlton, man, it's been a long time. It's good to see you. How you doing?
I'm upset you were in Stuttgart. You didn't come down and eat here.
Yeah, well, I mean, what can we do there? What can we do there?
And all I can tell you is that best restaurant in Arkansas 4 years in a row. Only place in the South with Kobe beef. You're welcome anytime. And you got to introduce me to the other two folks here, John, because they're welcome anytime too.
Okay, well, this is Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis. They are big Bet Saracen guys that have used the app many times.
Well, I knew we got a lot to get into because I'm fired up. So it's a 2 Red Bull kind of conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. No, things are good. Neighbors, we got to play golf. Look what showed up today. Saracen head covers. Ooh. And Saracen Pro Vs. So y'all, let me ship some of these to y'all.
Yeah. Listen, I'm always looking for some golf balls to lose because that's usually what goes.
I'm the same way. Our golf balls litter the country clubs of Little Rock. Somebody said they found one in their front yard the other day. That's a hell of an out of bounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That would be me. But hey, that's part of it, Carlton. And
I know you want to talk about sports betting, but we got to talk about the Hogs. We got to talk about NIL. We got to talk about why is Saracen talking about Chinese gambling. I mean, there's so much to unwrap, but I got to start with one thing way off topic if we can.
Let's do it.
We caught a lot of hell for insisting that we could do sports betting better than other folks could here as an Arkansas company. And, I don't know. Did y'all see what DraftKings did a week or two ago? They announced a winning surcharge.
Oh, really now?
Yeah, I mean, this is so dumb that we got to talk about it. I know this is why I'm not on today, but like, so with DraftKings, if you win, there is a surcharge. I guess it's like some kind of Uber Eats fee, and they claim it's to pay their taxes. Like, I kind of thought that's what the business did, was pay their taxes. We pay 20% of what we win to the state of Arkansas. So yeah, for everybody that said we want DraftKings in Arkansas, I respect it. But what you were asking for was a company that only wants to charge you a surcharge on winning bets. They're not gaming the odds. You would think they would just take 110 to 113, right? And maybe make a little more money and pay the taxes themselves. Oh no, they're going to break it out, and they're calling it a winning bet surcharge. So,
that's wild behavior.
The desire for DraftKings has died down a little bit.
There's always little fine details in all those fun sign up things that DraftKings or FanDuel or whoever's doing. There's always a little fine print there that you're like, oh wait, I don't like that as much.
Well, we catch hell because we're not big on free play, and that doesn't mean we won't always be big on free play. We do millions of dollars in free play on the gaming floor every month here. But be careful what you ask for. When people ask for free play, a lot of times you've got these playthrough requirements. They'll make you risk the money 5, 6, sometimes as many as 10 times before you can cash it out. And if we ever offer anything, it'll be a one-time playthrough. So that is, you bet it, you win it, it's yours. So anyway, enough about that. But I caught hell. The last time I was this fired up was when we were trying to legalize sports betting. And it was a war. And it was a war, not so much to get it done, but it was a war with the DraftKings and the FanDuels that wanted to run Arkansas. And I'm dying laughing. The idea of charging a surcharge, a junk fee. It's like the resort fee you pay at hotels. I'll be in Vegas on Wednesday, John. I'm sure I'll pay some $25 junk fee in my hotel. But the idea of charging a surcharge as a fee on winning bets is outrageous. You will never see that with Bet Saracen. Never.
Well,
that's insane.
Yeah, that's the thing, Carlton, because when, going back to, when I saw your tweets a couple days ago, I'm like, Carlton Saffa is not a guy who, like many Razorback fans, that just get mad online every day of his life and just goes crazy. I'm like, so when I saw that you were very passionate about something, I was like, okay, this is something that's pretty big and pretty serious. And I know that, you've been kind of the pioneer in here in the state of Arkansas with sports betting and the betting app. And, you mentioned NIL. So for those that saw what you were tweeting about and, what I retweeted about and everything, just kind of give a breakdown of what's been going on and what got you so fired up.
Okay, so let's talk. And I mean, you're never going to get anything but the straight dope from me. And you know that, John, right?
Of course, yeah.
And a really cool thing happened in my life. I worked in politics for a long time. And in that world, you have to be kind of, toe the line, walk the middle. But it's like the gloves are off in business, right? And I can be very direct. So I want to start this story, and y'all are going to have to interrupt me or we're going to be here till supper, because this is all we've been doing since March. This story begins in China. I realize that sounds like the beginning of I need like a better trailer voice. This story. No, but realistically, this story begins in China. Now, what I'm not going to do is name the names of these apps because I don't want people to download them. And I agree with Senator Tom Cotton when he says, sorry, if you have, oh, by the way, on my damn Apple, I don't know if y'all have this. If you do this, you get the thumbs up. You may see that on
like that.
And pardon me if you get some random thumbs up. But I agree with Senator Tom Cotton and his position on TikTok. It was a big war I had with my 13-year-old daughter, and I think I lost it because I think she has TikTok. But, Cotton says if you have a Chinese app on your phone, delete the app and get a new phone, right? And, I love that Temu has become a joke, right? Like it's this great internet meme, like Temu knockoffs of stuff, right? But, the Chinese are not our friends. And I'm not trying to be like racial or be a bigot or be a jerk. They're not our friends, okay? And so all of this stuff is designed to either harvest data or do far worse. So don't listen to me. You can listen to industry experts. And John, I'll send you this when we get done. But there are industry experts that point to Chinese gaming apps funding terrorism. I read that and I was like, damn, they went terrorism, like not just crime, but terrorism, right? But the federal government has said, look, these Chinese gambling apps or China-linked gambling apps are money laundering, they're criminal organizations, and in some instances even linked to terrorism. And as crazy as this sounds, you can download them today in Arkansas and play slot machines for real money on your couch. And I don't care if you're in Pangburn or Paragould, it's there, right? I can do it today in Pine Bluff. I could sit in my office at Saracen and play a Chinese slot machine app on my phone. And we're not talking about something like on the dark web, like you got to get a Tor browser and go deep into the dark of the web. No, it's on the App Store. They operate through a loophole called sweepstakes. And it's something that's very difficult to clean up. It's complicated how they do it, but what you need to know is that today in Arkansas, I'll tell you the name of the parent company. If people don't believe me, they can look them up. The parent company is called VGW. They're based in Australia. Their servers are in Malta, and they operate in some really dark waters with some really shady money. People go, well, how big a deal can this be? The sweepstakes casino folks, which is the polite name for these illegal casinos, they made $3 billion in the first quarter of this year. That's more than the Las Vegas Strip made, right? Like $3 billion in online illegal gambling. So you download this app in Arkansas. There's no consumer protection. They don't pay you. What do? Who are you going to call? It's not legal, right? It's like if you're buying drugs from some guy on the street corner and he stiffs you, who do you call, right? I mean, you have no recourse. So that's number one. Number two, there's no particular concern for how old you are. They may claim they care, but it's not like us. I mean, y'all have Bet Saracen accounts. You've seen the KYC. It's the same kind of stuff. If you open a bank account online or apply for a mortgage online, we know it's you. The penalties from this are from the Treasury Department, and they're as much as $250,000 per instance for violation. We also have to collect all kinds of other data on you. It's not because we're snooping. It's because we care. We don't want a 15-year-old betting sports. A 15-year-old has no business betting sports. They don't care how old you are. They don't care where you are. They have no concerns for responsible gaming. So that's a big deal too, right? Somebody has a problem with gambling. In the casino business, we have an obligation that extends any of the other sin businesses, right? So like, let's say you've been sober for 5 years, and you walk into a bar on Dixon Street and you say, hey man, I've been sober 5 years. Let me get a Bud Light. They have no obligation to not serve you, right? You walk into a casino and you say, I have a problem gambling. Where is the nearest Wheel of Fortune machine? We have an obligation morally and legally to prevent you from playing if you identify as a problem gambler, right? The guys in these people don't care. And again, it wouldn't be a big deal if this was just like some backroom operator with 3 slot machines, $3 billion a year. So, I really respect what the leadership in Arkansas have done with regard to China, and not just Senator Cotton's national perspective about China, but look, I'm a big fan of what Tim Griffin has done with regard to kick China out. I'm a big fan of what Governor Sanders has done with regard to kick China out. And in my own little tiny casino world, this is our mission, is to kick China out. All right. So you two are still saying, what the hell does this have to do with the Hogs?
Man, get it out,
I know it's coming.
So all that was March. We wrote a letter to the Racing Commission, which is the casino regulator, that basically said, we want to do what the state of Michigan did. So here's what the state of Michigan did. And look, we probably got people from Michigan watching this. I get it. There's some beautiful parts of Michigan. There's some less than beautiful parts of Michigan. But I never thought I would say I want to do what Michigan does. But that's my message. I want to do what Michigan did, because what Michigan did was awesome. So in Michigan, they knew they had a problem, and they took very aggressive enforcement action against these guys. But again, how do you stop somebody whose servers are in Malta, right? You can't. How do you shut them down? So what they did was they sent lots of nasty letters, lots of stop what you're doing. They looked for any kind of nexus with a bank, with a lawyer, with a consultant, with anything. They sent guys with windbreakers and nasty letters. But even then, these China-linked casinos continued. Same time in Michigan, we saw the rise of online gaming. And so in Michigan, you saw companies like Hard Rock or Four Winds or some of the other major casino operators in the state of Michigan create online gaming platforms. And we are talking here about the same stuff the Chinese are doing, slot machines and table games on your phone, except instead of it being illegal, it's now legal, which means you have to be 21, it's taxed, it's regulated, you have all the same standards. In Michigan, an amazing thing happened, John. these companies pulled out completely. And I've never seen this before. They left the state and they left with a press release. You can Google it, like Google VGW. That's the parent company. VGW leaves Michigan. And you'll find a press release. It'd be like if the cartel put out a document that said, we are no longer shipping fentanyl into Arkansas. They left. And they left because they said the heat is on us and reputable people are doing this. So why are we pouring millions of dollars into the state of Michigan to market our questionably legal product? I contend very illegal product. The heat's on us, law enforcement's chasing us, and the real casinos are doing it. So they saw month over month declines, and they finally just said, to hell with it, we're gone. That press release basically told their players, you got 90 days to get your money out of your accounts. Peace out. We're going to another state. And by God, they did. So today in Arkansas, you will be hammered with ads. One of them uses Ryan Seacrest as their pitch man. And they're everywhere. I got to give them credit. They're good at their marketing. They're on Reddit. They're on YouTube, Google AdWords. I mean, they get it. They're $3 billion a quarter. They're good at what they do. But they have no regard for regulation. There's no licensure. There's no taxation. So we wanted to take them out, Michigan style. Boy, that sounds really kind of mobbed up, doesn't it? Take them out, Michigan style. Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about the Hogs. So late June, early July, I get a call from Northwest Arkansas. And it went something like this. Hey, this thing you're working on that would put games online. Yeah. Could we do 50-50 drawings for the NIL? And I said, and I'll never forget this. I was leaving Pine Bluff and I was heading to our family's place in Hot Springs. And I was at Diamond Head. I had one bar on my cell phone. And I said, I got to call you back. I'm intrigued, but I don't want to hip shoot. Like I don't, there have been so many bad promises about NIL money and false hopes and bad rumors. Like, if I'm going to tell you we can do it, I want to know we can do it. Give me an hour and I'll call you back. And I remember this because my wife took our son water skiing and she was giving me hell about sitting on the back porch with my laptop like a nerd on a Friday night. And first thing I did was I read the lottery amendment. And the lottery can't do it. They're precluded. There's real tight parameters on what the lottery could do. Then the next thing I did was I read the charity raffle provisions. And a charity can't do it because they can't engage in electronic sales of tickets. And then I thought, well, could a stadium do it in venue? Well, you can't do electronic. It'd be cash only. Could a casino do it? And I thought, can we do a drawing? And then I thought, you dummy, you do a drawing every month. You do a car. I mean, we got a $114,000 Lexus out there in the lobby right now we're going to give away. Of course, casinos can do drawings. We do one every month. We're going to do a drawing. So we added language into Rule 5, this rule that we want to amend at the Racing Commission, that would allow us to do drawings, not where we make any money, where all the money either goes to the person with the winning ticket or to the NIL. We know what 50-50 means, right? If you've been to a Chiefs game, you've seen it. If you've been to, you've been anywhere, you know what a 50-50 is. I've learned, John, in the last month that people either absolutely know what a 50-50 drawing is or they've never heard of the damn thing, right?
We've all lost our fair share of money on a 50-50.
Yeah. So we put in their language that would allow 50-50. And we have been very polite. And I will continue to be very polite because that's the way that I think we do things in Arkansas. We're a small state. You don't burn bridges. And I am not here to throw stones. And I hate to break it to y'all, I'm not going to name names. But what I will tell you set me off on Friday was when I learned that someone associated with the University of Arkansas was messaging that there was not a need for NIL funding.
There is always a need for NIL. Yeah. There is never too much of that.
No. I mean, so here we go, right? Let's open the second Red Bull. How the hell is that true? I mean, this is a tough one to talk about, right? We're all Hog fans. I told a reporter yesterday, my kids don't have any choice. That's where they're going to school. And look, I was a Razorback, not by birth, by choice. Y'all don't hold it against me. I grew up in Oklahoma. My dad went to OU. My mom went to OU. My sister went to OU. I mean, I'm a Razorback by choice, but I bleed Razorback red. Hell, there's a gang ball, all right? I mean, like, just right here behind me on my desk. It's tough to talk about the need for NIL money because it sounds like the program is weak. And that's not what I'm implying. I don't care if you're in Texas, if you have the potential to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a week through a program that does not require you to call billionaires, you do it. And that's what we did. So we built the technology. No one has done it for NIL. To my knowledge, it's never been done anywhere in the United States to do online 50-50s, not in stadium, anywhere in Arkansas. And we have the app, we have the relationships with the payment processors, the know your customer folks, the geolocation folks. It took us so long to get Bet Saracen right, to get the payments right, to get the location right, to get the onboarding right. We have all those relationships and we have the tech stack ready. So our plan is to launch a new product that we will call Play Saracen. Play Saracen will include all the things we need to displace the Chinese. So slots, table games, and the like. And that is the core policy position. Like, I know we're here to talk about the Hogs, and I want to help the Hogs, but the real need for this was taking out the Chinese. Because there's going to be a point in a few years, and this is what I've told state legislators, there's going to be a point in a few years where y'all look at me and you go, what happened? You know, your receipts are going backwards. What's going on? Because remember, they get 20% of our taxes, right? They're 20% of our win, rather. So if we make $1, they get 20 cents. And so when they call and say, what's going on? Your numbers are going backwards. I'm going to say, duh, I'm watching it happen, right? We know what's happening, right? These apps are eating us alive. It's not begun to happen yet, but there's no doubt that they're here and in a big way. And I learned that you pull weeds when they're small, because when they get bigger, they're harder to pull out. So I want to pull this weed when it's small. But the idea that we could help the Hogs, oh, and by the way, we built it for the Red Wolves, for the Golden Lions. I'd like to do it for UCA. Somebody asked me this morning about the Mule Riders and SAU, and the answer is yes, 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 and yes. The product is modular and it works. I learned, by the way, that apparently they're talking about us on an Ole Miss message board. And I will tell you, we will absolutely not license this technology to Ole Miss. No way in hell are we going to help another state. Whether or not Arkansas does this, we'll just eat the millions we've got invested in the tech stack and go on. But we are not going to recoup our money by giving it to another state. That's not the way Arkansas companies operate. Why would someone say Arkansas does not need NIL money? Because the sense of urgency was not so much about kicking the Chinese out. It needs to happen. I've been screaming about it since March. We did press on this in March about the need to regulate this so that children aren't gambling on the internet, so that if people are gambling on the internet, that there can be taxes and there can be responsible gaming. But it's really weird. Like, I think about the NIL, I have all these stupid analogies like the cherry on top or, the spoonful of sugar. But the one that makes the most sense to me is it's the caboose that got bolted on the back of this train, right? This train that we were going to use Michigan style to take out these offshore groups. So the NIL is the caboose on this train. But because of the strength of Razorback Nation and because of the urgency with which we need money for hog football, the caboose is now driving the train, if you follow what I mean.
Sure.
So that was our sense of urgency. So for whatever reason, someone has begun to message to state officials that we don't need the NIL money. And I don't know why. All I can surmise is that someone wants to stop a policy proposal. And I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to why. Perhaps they don't like it. Perhaps they're willing to let Hunter fail. Perhaps they may not be as ready to go to market as we are. I don't know. This is all speculative. But what I'm telling you is that when I got word that senior officials in state government were told that there is no immediate need for money for NIL, I lost it. So, John, you'll appreciate this. I don't think y'all don't have kids, do you? Not
no.
Over 3.
Right? No kids that I know of.
No kidding.
I was at Pleasant Valley with my 8-year-old who has now figured out that it's important to line up, which took us a long time to understand that you need to line your shot up. Trying to explain to him the importance of lining up. I put the sticks down, the whole bit, and I get this call and I'm like, oh my God. So half those tweets were sent from the driving range at Pleasant Valley with me just in meltdown mode. But it was one of those moments like, that old movie, Michael Douglas Falling Down, where he's at McDonald's and he's got like the bag full of guns because they won't serve him breakfast. That was like my moment where I was like, enough is enough. If we have resorted to outright lies about the state of our program in order to slow down help for Coach Pittman, I got to say something. And that's where we are. So look, John, you've seen the product. It's ready. We are ready. And we would have been ready for the first game in Little Rock to do drawings. What we need is a hearing in front of the Racing Commission where I will talk mostly about the Chinese, because that is the core issue here. But I struggle with how can we, somebody said Arkansas is going to Arkansas, right? Like, how can we shoot ourselves in the foot on something that just makes such sense? People are already gambling online in this state, and they're doing it with people who hate our country and are using the money against us. So let's do it, and let's do it responsibly, and let's tax it, and let's regulate it. When you give those permissions to the casinos to do it, we're ready to roll with 50-50 drawings. And by the way, I am proud to tell you that Saracen has an agreement with the university. It's over $1 million a year for all that signage. And all that signage I intend to convert to one purpose. Download Play Saracen, support the NIL, and buy your ticket today. And we got coaches show programming. We've got, ads in the program. We got people like you. I've got people like, Rainwater or Wes Moore or whoever it may be. All of our friends in other networks and other stations who we work with, who talk about Bet Saracen, who I'm going to ask to quit talking about the sports book and start talking about the drawing. Let me give you some numbers, okay? So the Cowboys do, I got another screen over here. I finally broke down and went 2-screen. I thought I'd never do this.
Good.
All right. So the Cowboys just started doing raffles. They're in stadium only. And you got to be there. It's like at the Chiefs game, like y'all know, right? You got to go to the guy and buy the tickets. Okay. So the numbers aren't huge, right? I mean, as they went along, they got better. So, like you see, I don't know, the games in November, December of last year, you had pots at like 143,000, 110,000, 145,000, which means $145,000 pot. The winner got 72,000. The charity got 72,000. So if we did that number, then NIL would have gotten 72,000. That ain't it, okay?
Yeah.
Although I'll tell you, if we call Coach Pittman and said you want 72,000 a week, what do you think he's going to say?
He'll find a way to use it.
Yeah, he'll find a way.
Let's get serious here for a minute. So we've already been to China. We've already been to Fayetteville. Let's go to Alberta, Canada. In Alberta, Canada, they run online 50-50s for hockey. And I'm not smart enough with technology to screen share. So, John, I'll send this to you. But I'm just scrolling through the winning pictures on the gallery. I'll just read to you the drawings in Alberta. And so, by the way, let's do a couple of you didn't know we'd go so global on this, did you? But it gives you some idea of how much homework we've done on this topic, right? So Alberta has about 4 million people, a little over 4 million people. You have to be in Alberta to buy these tickets. You'll have to be in Arkansas to buy our tickets. So they're a little bit bigger than we are. We got about 3 million people. They got a little over 4 million people. But basically, we're in the same zone, right? So the first one I'm looking at was $1.183 million, $1,183,000 in their drawing. That's hockey in Alberta, benefiting a charity, right? I feel like we could come close to that in Arkansas.
Probably.
So week 2, $2.7 million. That means that would be $2.7 million to the NIL. Now, I want to be clear, y'all. Am I promising week 2, $2.7 million to the Razorbacks? No. Give me a little bit of time to ramp it up. But I think you're going to see a hell of a lot closer to Alberta numbers with online sales than you do Cowboys numbers with in-stadium sales. But let's just read through a few more. All right, the next week kind of sucked. It was only $400,000. The number I've heard is that we need another $600,000 a month for the Razorbacks. I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, 1 week we'd be almost there. All right, what do we got next? And then I'll quit reading these to you. 554, 706, 385, 1.2 million. They had one drawing where they had 14 million in the pot, and the winner got 7 and the charity got 7. And I don't know that we'll ever get there. But what I do know, John, when people say, what kind of numbers will these throw off? Well, no one's ever done this before. So let's do it. Okay. But I know that the online component is a multiplier. So I feel very comfortable in saying our numbers will be more like the Oilers than they are any 50-50 you've experienced with in-person sales. So let's just pick a number. Let's call it $250,000 a week. I feel like that's very reasonable. It may take us a week or two to get the word out. But again, we're going to point that $1 million plus in advertising straight at buy your drawing tickets. Let's say we could get to $250,000 a week to the NIL. $1 million a month. I think that would help. Unless, of course, we don't need NIL money, which is the message that apparently was being delivered. But I have a feeling that these numbers will be a lot more than $250,000. What happens if this becomes $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a week? That's not what I'm promising, but that's the potential here. We could look at a situation where we have an NIL war chest that rivals any in the country. The other thing I know about raising money, because I've been suckered into doing a few charities over the years, is that nobody wants to give to a charity that doesn't have much money in it, that these things snowball. And so once you have lots of money, people are more willing to give money. So this doesn't displace the philanthropic class that give checks with lots of zeros on it. It just emboldens them to give more. So when you've got a dependable stream of folks who are giving money on 50-50 drawings, I think it makes it that much easier for Hunter Yurachek and Sam Pittman to make calls to the billionaires and centimillionaires. I learned that word the other day. I wanted to use it, 100 millionaires, to give, because we're winning, right? Like let's be what Alabama was. Let's be what Georgia is. And so if you've got a dependable stream of a couple 100,000 a week, you can just bank on. It makes it easier to go raise that money. Or for God's sake, and I'm not here to say give them a break, but there's about 20 people in our state that pay for everything, and let's give them a break, right? I mean, were it not for the generosity of people like the Tysons, we'd be even worse off. So, yeah, that's my story. This to me is an absolute no-brainer. People say it's an expansion of gaming. I got news for you. We already have online gaming in Arkansas, and it's being run with people who hate our country. People say, well, you can't do it legally. And let's talk about that. If that's the case, then the sports books are illegal. So when Amendment 100 passed, it said the casinos have this authority. And this authority is really broad. It is, we can do anything for money as long as it involves cards, dice, mechanical, electromechanical, or electronic devices. You can tell that I've read that more than a few times and quoted it more than a few times. Well, a drawing on your phone is clearly an electronic device, right? But geography, we keep getting back to this, right? The first rules come out for casino gaming in 2019, and they said you can play poker on your phone for real money in Arkansas. Now, at Saracen, we believe in poker. My friends in West Memphis and Hot Springs don't have poker rooms, but we have a poker room here, the only live legal poker room in Arkansas. And we eventually will have a poker app. We're a little busy building a 15-story hotel and everything else. We're only 5 years old, right? We'll have 1 million square foot under roof by next fall. But we have every intention of turning poker on. But the crazy thing is we've had poker for real money legal since day one in Arkansas. And the sun still rose. Nobody freaked out. You know, nobody lost their minds. We all didn't go to hell. We've had poker since day one. 2022, sports betting was really a question of geography. That's it. You had a lot of verbiage about technical standards, geolocation, the Wire Act, know your customer. But at the end, John, it was about geography, because originally sports betting was within the four walls of a casino. And then the rule change was really geographic. It said, nope, now it's good within the four borders of our state. And that's the same thing we're doing here. In fact, we're amending the rule that allows poker. And we're using all the technical standards for the sports book to ensure that it's done correctly. So 2019, we make geographic distinctions. This thing is, there we are with the thumbs up. This thing is okay in the casino. This thing is okay anywhere in Arkansas. 2022, these things are okay in the casino. These things are okay anywhere in Arkansas. And what we're looking for is 2024. All the things this casino can do are good anywhere within the state of Arkansas. Again, if that's not legal, the original rules for poker were not legal, which were based on Nevada regulations, and the rule allowing sports betting was not legal. So I am confident enough in our legal position that my response to someone who says this isn't legal is cool, then turn the sports books off, because they are based on exactly the same legal rationale. One other thing that's kind of cool is, since we passed sports betting, we actually now have case law that backs this up. So you had a really complicated case in Florida that I won't bore you with. Here we are with more geography. But you had a really complicated case in Florida that really boiled down to, where does the bet take place? That was the core question. So it went through the Florida courts. It went to the appellate court. They wanted it to go to the Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court declined to take the case. But what the decision was at the end in Florida, and this was about sports betting, but it's irrelevant because a bet's a bet, right? In Florida, the question was, where does the bet physically take place? And the question was, is it the guy sitting on the beach in Destin betting the game? I don't even know why I got fireworks.
Congrats.
Love that one.
Man. I love Apple, but I'm beginning to rethink this dedication to Steve Jobs. I wonder what happens if I do this.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the rain comes down.
Probably the Chinese in my computer. Okay, so in Florida, they said, no, a bet is legally recorded where the servers are located. It doesn't matter where you are. And we got federal case law on this, right? And I don't intend to go to court, because we don't need to go to court, and we won't go to court. That's not how we are. The arguments are on our side, and it's there. But to somebody that says this is not legal, then they would have said it's not legal in 2022. When my friends who we began with, DraftKings, threw everything but the kitchen sink at us to try to stop us. I actually think they threw the kitchen sink at us, and it still didn't stop us. But now we even have case law backing up our argument. So all we're asking for is a rule change at the Racing Commission that would allow us to do the Michigan thing, to knock out the Chinese. And by the way, let's help the hogs. So kick China out, help the hogs. And with that, I've given you like a very calm version of my Twitter rant.
Oh, well, that
was some questions, right?
Well, see, that was the thing, is I actually had like a couple questions, but like you answered pretty much all of them that I had. And
this is why it's dangerous. You can't really have me on, because it's probably my last appearance, because it's
people are loving it, man. The chat's loving it.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, so I look really bald on this camera. Have I been busted out for that?
No, actually, only our physical appearance gets made fun of, not yours. You've been pretty good.
A safe space for guests, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, so all right, the Zen thing. I'm like I'm an old school Zen bro. We probably got some Zen guys in the chat. This will get them fired up. Oh, I'm old school, man. I use the one that still has tobacco in it. You got to go. So this predates Zen. Sorry.
There we go.
I know. Yeah, Zen.
I'm winning right now.
Yeah. Zen. It seems like everybody's doing it these days. But
did you see the thing they're using in the presidential race? I don't want to get political, but I thought this was hilarious. RNC Research put out a big hit piece on the guy from Minnesota, Walls. He put a 95% tax on Zen. That got people fired up, man. You don't mess with the Zen, right?
That's probably a smart play there. I mean, Zen's powerful these days.
Zen is powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. And but that was the thing, Carlton, with the NIL angle and all of that. Like, that's something that, I mean, I know we've been here with Inside Arkansas, but also like for years since it started. Seems like people in our audience, they always want to know more about NIL and what's going on and how it can be done more. And we talked about somebody saying that, they have enough NIL or there's too much NIL or whatever. It's just ludicrous because I know Curtis is, we talked about with Razorback basketball, basketball team, you get 13 guys or whatever. It's like, how much money would you need NIL wise to field like a national championship caliber team? And, numbers somewhere between between 4 to 6, 5, 7 million. That's just for one team. So
the cost of business goes up every year too. And until it's regulated, that's going to continue to happen. So there's never too much or never enough NIL. You can always use more. And Arkansas fans have been starved, I think, not only to get caught up, but to be on the front end of something innovative and get out ahead of an idea. And this seems, like it could be one of those opportunities.
So, there's an old saying in politics that you don't have to have more money to win, but you have to have enough. Right. And I hope y'all understand what I mean. Like,
right.
When somebody says, I want to run for dog catcher, how much do I need to run? Well, this would be enough. This would be way more than enough. But if you don't have enough, it's game over. Right. And so my concern for my alma mater is that we have enough, because you are exactly right. This becomes an arms race at some point, right? Where if we've got 30 million, somebody's going to get 40 million and we're going to need 50 million. And, I've been dramatic enough, right? Like, it's like the Cold War, right? Like with nuclear bombs and everything else, right? But it becomes a bit of an arms race, right? What I'm saying is we have something that belongs to Saracen. It was a custom built piece of technology that we have no desire to give to anybody else, but we do want to use it for ASU, for UCA, for the U of A. We want to use it to help our state. And I want to make it very, very clear, because this is a misconception that I've heard. This is not a monopoly. What I am proposing, I'm the only one talking about it. What I am proposing are all of these tools to take out China and make money and create taxable events in Arkansas for all the casinos. And it is my sincere hope, while we are the one with the massive advertising agreements with the University of Arkansas, we also have an agreement with Arkansas State. My sincere hope is that my friends in West Memphis and Hot Springs would offer these drawings as well. I can't speak for them. I won't speak for them. Look, we're colleagues. We compete with each other, but we get along great. My hope is that they also run these drawings. And then my real hope is that after we get this up and everybody's got this rolling, that we do what y'all see at pro sports events, which is the drawing brought to you by somebody. So, once we're rolling, we'd be willing to actually pay for the right to do the drawing. Or hell, maybe Walmart will pay $10 million for it, and we can put that in the NIL pot, right? It gives Learfield something else to sell, or it gives them something else to sell. This is, again, the caboose we bolted on to help, because it's a good idea. It was a good idea about just getting rid of China. But if you can kick China out and help the hogs, why aren't we doing this yesterday? And I'm speaking in circles, John, but it's a frustration point, because we've been sitting on this quietly trying to work through it for about a month. And back to the tweets, I lost it Friday night. I lost it. I mean, we don't need NIL money. There's no way you can believe that. And in some ways that killed some of the sense of urgency on the movement of this. Look, I'll be honest too. The casino will make a bunch of money, not on the drawing, from online gaming. And, fine. We have 800 employees here. We'll soon have close to 1,200. We have $550 million invested in a building in Pine Bluff that used to be my friend Ford Trotter's Dove Field, right? Like, I'm proud of what we've done, and I'm proud of what we're doing. We pay an enormous amount in gaming taxes and are glad to. But I would like to pay gaming taxes on these same slot plays that, frankly, are going in the pockets of folks that hate our country. And I know I sound a bit dramatic, but that is what we're talking about here. Kick the Chinese out and let's help the hogs while we're at it. But to say that we don't need NIL money in an effort to slow me down, no bueno, man. No bueno.
Yeah. No one really wins from that, because I'll be honest, when I heard the stadium naming rights for Razorback Stadium was up, I was thinking that Saracen was going to try to name it Saracen Razorback Stadium, something crazy like that too.
I mean, we're a big business, but I mean, we ain't got nothing on Walmart, right? So, We'll let those boys have it. But that's my story, right? And I'm confident enough in my story. We put together something we call the Rule 5 playbook, which is ultimately what we're changing, the poker rule, right? Because we're just creatively changing the poker rule. And I'm confident enough that I actually will distribute my quote Rule 5 playbook to anyone, for or against me. I mean, I know that's kind of bold, but like my arguments for and against this, all right, true confession. I was a college debater. My wife gives me hell about it. It is nerdy, but look, I'm balding and I'm wearing a blue blazer. Like, I guess it fits, right? That track. But like, I'm confident enough in our argument that I will give all the pros and cons to anyone who wants them. My ask is that we have a public hearing where we can discuss this. And you know what? If we go into a hearing and the Racing Commission says no, okay. But why keep all this bottled up? And why the desperation with lines like, we don't need NIL money? That's what put me over the top, brother.
Hey, I can understand it, man.
So I'm going to send you this stuff. I don't know if we can do what the Oilers can do, but surely, I mean, if our numbers are about like Alberta in terms of population, I have to think that our numbers will be much more like Alberta multi-million-dollar jackpots than they will in stadium sales at Jerry World. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know, what did I miss?
Man, if you missed something, I'd like to know what it was, because like I said, you covered like any question that I had, like you nailed. So
and here's the bottom line: we're ready to go. We were ready to go yesterday. We're ready, and I want everyone to run these raffles if they so desire. And we want, as Saracen, we want to run a raffle for every collegiate program that wants one. We asked our folks to build this at scale so it could take tens of thousands of transactions at the same time, and that it could simultaneously run raffles. In the example I sent you, John, and folks, it's not something we're sharing publicly. I did 2 little screenshots just to give some idea that I was real. I'm not cool enough to say I brought receipts, which is probably what I probably should have said on Twitter. But we gave 2 little snippets. John's seen the full product. We even have it set up so, there's a part of football season where we overlap with basketball, where we can run these at the same time. So we'd have a basketball and we'd have a football. And, it's neither here nor there. But my hope would be that we would take a raffle and run it football season long and let that pot get huge, a couple of $1 million, right? And then we do weekly drawings. The other thing is we don't even have to do them for home games only. We can do them for away games, right? So, in a perfect world, we run this. Hogs Plus goes and interviews the winner. We play the winner on the Jumbotron at the next game, and everybody buys their drawing tickets, and we're off to the races. So that's my story, right? And I guess the only argument against it would be like, what you're proposing is an expansion of gaming, or you can't be telling the whole story. No, that's it. We'll make some money on this. We'll make a lot of money on this. Most of it will be at the expense of illegal actors. And we know it works because we watched it happen in Michigan. And by God, we need to get Coach Pittman money. Let me kind of end with this. We have a saying here at Saracen. My customer interactions are very limited. I mean, I'm on the floor all the time. I know our players, but in a week, I don't interact with as many players as one of our frontline employees does in a shift, right? I have fewer customer interactions in a week than they do in a shift. And so I don't really know what is exactly wrong. So what is my job here? My job is to equip our team with the tools they need to do their job at Saracen. What is our job as Arkansans? It is to equip Coach Pittman with the tools that he needs to get this done. And whether you like NIL or hate NIL, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but it ain't going away, right? I'm also not a huge fan of taxes, but they ain't going away either, right? Yeah. So you can either accept it or pretend it's going to go away. So just like here at Saracen, where I need to make sure that the folks in the kitchen have the right size rubber gloves, or that the folks who do, facilities have, Phillips head screwdrivers instead of just flatheads. Shame on us, not shame on Coach Pittman, if he doesn't have the resources to recruit and retain talent. That's up to us. And this is our way to help in some small way. And again, I'll say it. I hope all of the casinos will run these drawings, and we will not make a dime on this. The rules are written in such a way that there's actually an independent third-party auditor to make sure that the casinos are passing all the money back through. So that's it, right? We're prohibited by law, by the way, from giving to NIL. So we don't give directly. And it's too close to comfort for me anyway. We take more action on Hogs games than any other sports book in America. Got to brag for a minute. Y'all know this. Saracen is the 14th largest sports book in America. We take more action on the Hogs than any other sports book on earth. Us making direct contributions from our money to players is a bad idea. That is too close for comfort. We are asking for problems. So what we devised was a plan where we create a drawing where the money never hits our balance sheet, where it doesn't have anything to do with happens on the field, right? Doesn't matter if we cover or we don't, or, whether somebody hits their props or they don't. It's a drawing. Never our money, never hits our balance. And at the drawing, half the money goes to the NIL and the other half goes to the dude who wins it. And that's my story.
Well,
all right, it's a 45-minute rant, right? Sorry, guys.
No, listen, like that's what we kind of do with this platform, man, is like, people want to know this stuff and know what's kind of going on. So you got to lay it out for everybody. But no, we appreciate you coming on and kind of just talking more about it. And, I know that, people know, at least I know for sure. It's like, I know you're a Razorback fan. I know everybody wants the Razorbacks to do well, and you're trying to do your part, man. So people got to appreciate that.
So I know you're trying to wrap up and get rid of me, but like, I am an open book. Like, is there somebody in the chat saying this is a scam or this is crazy or don't do this? Like, I will respond to any and all questions. I have no shame.
Well, I mean, man,
there's one guy really in his feelings, but outside of that, it's been mostly normal.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he saying?
A lot, but no, any questions I even had in my brain, you usually answered them throughout, your time talking. So,
one of the biggest things there was, people asking about this idea. It's a good idea, but what's your cut? How rich are you going to get off of it? And you just kind of went through the whole thing.
Let's be straight up about it, right? Yeah. So I've got numbers. We think that the size of the market, and we looked at Rhode Island and Michigan. So we think that the size of the online gaming market in Arkansas is $124 million in the first year, right? Like I told y'all, I'm an open book. I think the majority of that will be us eating the Chinese casino money. We think at maturity, this could get to be as big as $400 million. Now, understand, those are huge numbers, but not in casino world, okay? Like, it ain't my money. I don't own this place. But $124 million in year one, I suspect almost all of that's going to come right out of the pockets of the illegal casinos. So yeah, I love the idea of online gaming. And to the guy who's asking how much we're going to make, great question. What's the catch, right? Something like this sounds too good to be true. Good for you. You should ask a question like that. We will make money on this. But back to what that legislator told me, I'd rather you do it than somebody we'll never meet and can never catch overseas. And what do we do with that money? We have employees. We have a business. I don't know if y'all know anybody that works at Saracen, but if you work at Saracen, we give you $5,250 a year to go to college, right? The frontline employees, they get a bonus every quarter, no matter what our numbers are, a retention bonus, right? I mean, on and on and on. This is a good place to work. So look, do we make a bunch of money? Yeah. But would you rather us make the money, or would you rather the money be made to people who have servers in Malta with Chinese money whose headquarters are in Australia? How much money do we make on the drawing? This I can tell you with precision. Exactly $0.00.
We now have people asking if you're hiring. So
yes. Okay. Well, hey, one more thing. Best job in the house is a dealer. We're way off topic here. Our average dealer's making something like $70,000 a year. We run our own dealer school. So if you go to Tunica, they make you get like a Pell Grant or get a FAFSA, whatever thing, and, student loans, and now we run our own dealer school. We'll teach you how to deal cards. We can teach you to deal blackjack in 12 weeks. We run the school at night, so you can learn to deal while you keep your day job. And 70 grand is pretty good. Some days I wish I was a dealer because the phone doesn't ring at night. And I don't have to talk about China and Michigan and Florida federal cases and everything else. But yeah, it's a hell of a place to work. And my dad told me never count another man's wallet. And I respect the question, because when something sounds this good to be true, you say, what's the catch? I mean, the catch is that we're going to make money. Yeah, I'm a capitalist. This is America. I'd rather we make the money than bad guys overseas. And if I can't get the permissions to run games of chance on the phone, we can't do the drawings, because the drawing is a game of chance.
Yeah. Well, also you got people wanting you to say, asking if you're going to run for office, and they'll vote for you. So,
no. How about this one? Okay. So I worked in the state capitol for a very long time. And then I left and came to Pine Bluff and got into the casino business. And there's not a day in my life that I haven't thought about the fact that every moment of this job is far more honest than the time I spent in the capitol. You know?
That's not surprising.
Yeah. I can believe it.
We're going to get the straight dope. The only thing I didn't do, because I know we're on a podcast, I'm used to talking on the radio. I did my best not to cuss. I don't know what your rules are. I hope I didn't cuss. I think I didn't cuss.
The rules are we have no rules.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, technically. So,
with that in mind, then, the Hogs don't need money for NIL is bullshit.
That's perfect.
And someone has resorted to bullshit to stop this initiative.
Well, and it needs to be not stopped. It needs to be actually like done. And so hopefully it does get done. So everybody can
all
succeed.
in Northwest Arkansas? I know you are, John.
Yeah.
Yep. Fayetteville.
So the credit, when this is all said and done, there's two people that deserve the credit. One are the folks at the Edge. They came up with this idea. We did not. The whole idea of this drawing came from the Edge. And there's a fella named Bart Hester, who is himself a former student athlete. He was a Razorback baseball player. So he's the kind of guy that your parents wish you'd grow up to be, right? Like Bart's just a great dude. He's my friend. He was a hell of an athlete. His wife's beautiful. His kids are cool. I mean, Bart is the best. Bart is as conservative as anyone you will ever meet. That may not be something people in your chat log like, I don't know. But Bart is the one that deserves the credit for this. Bart plus the Edge. I mean, I've laughingly said that when we get this done and we're doing millions a month for NIL, they need to put a statue of Bart Hester outside of Broyles Complex, because he's the one that fixed NIL when this is done.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, if whoever needs to get credit, yeah, it's a great idea, and it needs to happen again. I think everybody should be in favor of more NIL money, like just straight up.
We've got to get over the idea that gaming is bad. And I'm not saying that because I'm a casino guy. It's already happening. So
yeah.
The question is not, do we want people to game on their phones? It's, do we want them to game with Arkansas casinos or with people overseas?
Yeah. Yep. People need to get on board. They need to get on board with it.
I hope this was not the most boring segment of the day.
It definitely was not that.
No, it was not that.
We took care of that early in the show for sure.
Yeah, we talked about the depth of the safety position. So I feel like that's probably
for the third time in 4 days.
Yeah.
Did y'all watch the Olympics?
Yes.
A little bit.
I watched a bunch of the women's events.
Oh yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That pole vaulter from Norway. Whew.
Yeah.
My anniversary week. What am I saying? I got to shut up.
Yeah, about to say, we don't want to get you in trouble, man. I know, like,
I told my wife, I'm like, look at this pole vaulter,
Yeah, great at pole vaulting, big pole vault.
I think women accounted for like 65-70% of USA's medals. So shout out to the women. They brought it home for us.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting into women's boxing.
Ah, I know. Yeah, it would be. I've never watched it. Never watched the women's boxing.
It took me longer than it should have to catch on to that.
I feel like after what happened, I feel like I could win, right? Because like they let people that are balding and have the same equipment we all do apparently box. So yeah, no, I don't mean like watch it. I'm thinking I could like maybe go to the LA Olympics and be in the women's boxing. What do y'all
throw
think?
some hands, huh?
Yeah, you might be able to win a couple events here and there. Maybe find a way.
Yeah. Domestic abuse. If you do it in Little Rock, you do it in Paris, you win a gold medal.
There, yep. It's a big difference there. It's the biggest difference there. Oh man, yeah, no, but I think people are on board with that. Carlton, man, it was great. It was great hearing from you, dude.
I'm
Great
always
talking.
here, man. You just tell me what you need, and I'm here.
No, we appreciate it. We're gonna have to come down to Red Oak, man. It's been too long since I've been down there. Best steak in the state.
I sent you a picture. We're on the 11th floor of the hotel tower, and the 1,600 seat concert venue is huge. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, can't wait for it, man. Can't wait for it. So appreciate you and appreciate Bet Saracen and the Saracen Casino and everything you do. Man, it's hopefully some things change and hopefully it gets going and hopefully it gets done.
We're moving in the right direction. I have so much respect for the governor, and I think with the movement with the Razorback Nation, we'll get there. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been great for our state, and I think the issue here is that there is a lot of bad information floating around, and you cannot make good decisions with bad information.
No, that's true. That's true.
Send me your address. I'm going to send you some golf balls.
All right. Yeah. I'll shoot you a text, man.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Hey, appreciate it, Carlton. Thanks so much, man. It's good talking with you. So, well, we went about a little over time, but that's fine. That was great. Good information. We'll have that reposted also on Inside Arkansas. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here for Curtis Wilkerson, as well as Andrew Ellis, and also Carlton Saffa of the Saracen Casino Resort. I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you then.